Hey everyone, Our Shawn McBride here. I want to bring you another tip about a real life business issue, which is preparing for changes in ownership of your company. So if you're a company owner, the reality is that sometime in the future, the ownership of your company is going to change, right? So we're going to run through a multi-step process about how do you prepare for that and really get yourself ready. So this is another edition of the McBride Attorneys Law Show on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed. And as always, we'll be discussing some issues which will touch on legal, but we will not be giving legal advice. Consult your own advisors for those issues. So let's jump into it. First key in preparing for changes in ownership of your company is number one, to acknowledge that changes will happen. Ownership of your company will go somewhere, right? You may want to transition out in 3 to 5 years. I have many clients in that basket. You may wish to pass it on to family. You may get bought out. You may bring in a new partner. You may die, right? A lot of different things can happen, but at some point in the future, your business ownership is going to change. So the first key is to acknowledge business ownership will change. And this sounds simple, but many business owners don't take the work to acknowledge that. Number two is to separate the ownership and the management. So if I look at companies that go up for sale, and we did a piece on selling a company in the past here, if you check out McBride Attorneys Law Show on YouTube. If I look at selling a company or bringing in new owners, one of the main things they'll be looking for is, does the company run itself or does the owner have to be there? It's also something we've talked about on the Journey to CEO channel with Ann Gaddy. You can check out that YouTube channel as well, right? The company needs to be independent of the owners, and many companies don't cross this hurdle. And this makes it much easier to transition the ownership of the company. If the company can run itself, if it has a management team, if it has a management structure, systems, processes, all the things that are needed to get the business running, then it's very easy to transition the ownership because ownership and management are separated, right? And ideally, the owners, at least in a short term, only have to take over the economic rights. They don't necessarily have to go in and reconfigure the business and change the management. So that's what we want to do. We want to separate those two. We want the business managing itself, and we want the ownership structure working on its own. So that's one of the keys, is to separate these two, get the company managing itself, get it producing its own revenues and cash flows, and let the business do the things it needs to do within its own structures. The third thing, once we have all that, is to plan for that transition. What does the transition look like? Who buys in? How much do they pay? And how does all of that work? So we want to build the process of transition, right? Is it the next generation of family? Do they actually want to run the business, or do they just want cash flow? If we have multiple siblings, which one's actually going to run it? Do they get a salary for that? And where do the other siblings fit into the picture? These are conversations we need to have up front and build a plan for the new ownership. So number one, acknowledge there's going to be a change. Number two, make the business run itself. And then number three in this process is to have a process to allow other people to own and operate the business. So 1, 2, 3, very simple to prepare for the ownership of your business. Those are high-level things that you can take to your attorney and chat with. Make sure you're subscribed to the McBride Attorneys Law Show on YouTube, and of course, drop your comments. Don't drop anything confidential, but tell me what's going on in your business, what questions you have. When we get a lot of questions, we do segments on it. So looking forward to hearing from you. Want to see your comments, and I'll try to respond back to you. McBride Attorneys Law Show on YouTube. Subscribe. Pat yourself on the back for doing hard work. This is Our Shawn McBride. I'll be back with you again very soon.